to be fixed. And I don't give a damn if I get fined because that shit cheap. And I am tired of this shit because I've been nice and I.
What you're about to hear isn't just frustration. It's the sound of a superstar being systematically dismantled by the very league that should be celebrating her. Angel Reese's voice cracking with exhaustion. Her spirit fractured by months of what can only be described as institutional warfare. And if you think this is just another athlete having a bad day, you're dead wrong. This is the explosive moment that reveals a conspiracy so deep, so calculated, that it threatens to tear apart everything we thought we knew about professional basketball. The mainstream sports media wants you to believe this was a simple meltdown, an unprofessional outburst from a player who can't handle the pressure of the big leagues. They're feeding you a comfortable lie because what Angel Reese experienced wasn't a loss of control. It was the first crack in a wall of silence that's been protecting one of the most disturbing cover-ups in modern sports. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the WNBA's dirty secret, the systematic destruction of Angel Reese, all orchestrated to build a golden throne for their chosen queen, Caitlin Clark. This isn't speculation. This isn't fan drama. This is a calculated, multi-front assault that involves league officials, referees, coaching staff, teammates, and media personalities working in perfect coordination to break down one of the most dominant players the WNBA has ever seen. And at the center of this web of deception stands one man who became their most powerful weapon, Stephen A. Smith, the media assassin they unleashed to destroy her reputation on national television. The evidence starts where it's most visible, on the hardwood itself, under those bright arena lights where corruption can hide in plain sight. This isn't about a few questionable calls or the typical home court advantage that every team experiences. What we're looking at is a targeted, statistically provable pattern of abuse that reads like a directive handed down from the highest levels of the league office. The numbers don't lie, and when you see them laid out, the picture becomes crystal clear. Take the game against the Minnesota Lynx, a heart-stopping 80-75 loss that should have been remembered for incredible basketball. Instead, it became another crime scene in the WNBA's war against Angel Reese. In that entire contest, Reese and her Chicago Sky teammates were awarded a pathetic 8 free throw attempts. 8. Meanwhile, the Lynx marched to the free throw line 17 times. That's not just a discrepancy. That's a mathematical impossibility unless something sinister is happening behind the scenes. Think about what this means. The league is essentially giving Reese's opponents a license to hack, shove, and assault her in the paint, knowing full well that the whistle will never come to her rescue. It's psychological warfare designed to make her question her own game, to make her hesitate on drives she's made thousands of times before, to slowly erode the confidence that makes her one of the most dominant forces in women's basketball. And Angel Reese knows exactly what's happening to her. This became painfully clear just 48 hours before the Clipboard incident that sent shockwaves through the basketball world. Standing at that podium, with cameras rolling and reporters scribbling, she laid bare the corruption for everyone to see. Her words weren't the ramblings of a paranoid athlete. They were the desperate testimony of someone who had been pushed beyond their breaking point by systematic injustice. But why would the WNBA orchestrate such an elaborate scheme against one of their most talented players? The answer is as simple as it is ugly. They're running a protection racket for Caitlin Clark. Every time Clark gets breathed on, a foul gets called. Her path to the basket is sanitized, cleared of all obstacles by what can only be described as league decree. Meanwhile, Reese gets treated like a human pinball machine, with referees apparently instructed to swallow their whistles, no matter how obvious the contact becomes. This disgusting double standard isn't accidental. In a league desperate for mainstream attention and a singular marketable hero, they've chosen their golden goose. Caitlin Clark represents everything they think American basketball fans want to see, while Angel Reese has been cast as the villain who must be conquered for their fairy tale to come true. It's sports entertainment masquerading as legitimate competition, and it's happening right in front of our eyes. But you can't control a narrative just by rigging games. That's too obvious, too crude for a conspiracy this sophisticated. To truly cement your chosen hero in the public consciousness, you have to poison the well of public opinion. You have to systematically assassinate the character of your hero's biggest rival. For this dirty work, the WNBA activated their most powerful media asset, Stephen A. Smith. His televised evisceration of Angel Reese wasn't sports analysis. It was a public execution ordered from the highest levels of the organization. Smith meticulously painted her as an immature, jealous child, citing manufactured controversies and social media moments as stark contrast to the supposedly perfect, unimpeachable professionalism of Caitlin Clark. He came armed with carefully selected statistics, wielding them like weapons to beat her reputation into submission. The numbers he presented seemed damning. Games featuring Clark average a staggering 1.178 million viewers, while games without her crater to a mere 394,000. It was surgical, devastating, and entirely dishonest, because what the public didn't know was that these weren't Stephen A. Smith's organic thoughts. Industry insiders are whispering that his entire diatribe was directly orchestrated by WNBA leadership, delivered through their most loyal and loudest media soldier. The message was crystal clear. Get in line with our narrative, or you'll be publicly humiliated and destroyed. The timing was too precise, the statistics too perfectly curated, the talking points too coordinated to be coincidental. This was a media hit job designed to manufacture the narrative of a bitter, jealous Angel Reese, whose very presence threatened the league's carefully constructed fairy tale. And here's where the conspiracy gets even more insidious. They deliberately stoked racial tensions to distract everyone from the real story. They want you to think this is about black versus white, about racial dynamics in women's basketball, because racial debates are messy and divisive and keep you from seeing the truth. This isn't about skin color. This is about the league's chosen one versus the player they're desperately trying to bury. It's a classic misdirection play, and it's working perfectly. But the most unforgivable front in this war wasn't being waged by corrupt referees or complicit media personalities. The most devastating betrayal was coming from inside Angel Reese's own house, from the people who saw her sweat and bleed and sacrifice every single day. The corruption had infected her own organization. Let's revisit that Clipboard incident that dominated sports headlines for weeks. On July 8th, with the game tied and just 29.9 seconds on the clock, Angel Reese violently slapped a clipboard from the hands of assistant coach Ann Crosby. The media presented this as pure petulant rage, the tantrum of an immature superstar who couldn't handle pressure. They didn't tell you the real story. Sources inside the Sky organization reveal that Crosby had been systematically undermining Reese's authority for months, consistently pushing strategies in team meetings that were designed to isolate her from key plays and marginalize her impact on the court. That clipboard slap wasn't an attack on authority. It was the desperate act of a leader fighting back against systematic disrespect happening in her own sanctuary. And just when you think the betrayal couldn't cut any deeper, her own front office picked up a knife and twisted it. On September 3rd, Angel Reese did exactly what every fan wants their superstar to do. She demanded excellence. She told the Chicago Tribune that she wasn't settling for mediocrity, that the organization needed to acquire better players to match her historic efforts. This was leadership. This was a champion's mentality. This was a plea for the front office to match her commitment with their own. How did the Chicago Sky respond to their franchise players' passionate call for improvement? They publicly humiliated her. They suspended her for making statements they claimed were detrimental to the team. But here's the smoking gun that proves this was premeditated character assassination. When they issued the suspension, she was already serving a separate one for accumulating technical fouls. Fouls called by the same biased referees we've been discussing. They punished her twice for the same time period. This is unprecedented in professional sports. This wasn't discipline. This was a calculated public flogging designed to punish her for speaking truth about their organizational failures. And the poison seeped into the locker room like a virus. Veterans Ariel Atkins and Rachel Bannum convened what sources describe as an ambush disguised as a players-only meeting, an intervention designed to break Reese's spirit and force her into compliance with the organization's agenda. The proof came in Bannum's exhausted admission that she was so over all this, a clear signal that management had successfully turned the locker room against the one player who was fighting for everyone's success. Through all of this systematic abuse, the rigged officiating, the media assassination, the organizational betrayal, the teammate isolation, what has Angel Reese done? She's put up absolutely historic numbers that should have the entire basketball world celebrating her greatness. She's averaging 14.7 points and a league-leading 12.6 rebounds per game. She's racked up 23 double-doubles while breaking WNBA rebounding records and dragging a 13-19 team that's actively working against her toward respectability and away from those cameras and bright lights. This supposed villain reveals herself to be something entirely different. She's a young woman so overwhelmed by genuine human connection that personal messages of support from Chicago fans brought her to tears. She's a granddaughter whose emotions overflowed when she saw her grandmother attend her first WNBA game. This is the human being they're trying to systematically destroy. They've thrown everything at her: rigged games, media hit jobs, organizational sabotage, locker room poison, and they've failed to break her spirit. So the question isn't just what the WNBA will try next. The question is how far up this conspiracy reaches, and what happens when they finally realize that in their desperate attempt to build a throne for their chosen queen, they've created something far more dangerous: a martyr. And martyrs, as history teaches us, have a funny way of burning entire kingdoms to the ground. The WNBA may have won some battles in their war against Angel Reese, but they're about to discover that some victories come at a cost too high to bear. The truth has a way of surfacing, and when it does, the very foundation of their carefully constructed narrative will crumble beneath the weight of their own corruption.